The air was thick with tension as Megan rushed through the park, cradling her infant son in his stroller. Suddenly, a shrill voice pierced the calm. "Get away from my kid, you bitch." Megan spun around to see a wild-eyed woman charging towards her, clutching a canister of pepper spray. Before she could react, a fiery mist engulfed her face, sending searing pain through her eyes and lungs. Megan's baby wailed in terror as she collapsed to the ground, blinded and gasping for air. Megan woke with a start, her heart pounding. The memory of that horrific attack still haunted her dreams, a waking nightmare that refused to fade. As she held her sleeping son close, she vowed to find the twisted woman who had sprayed them and make her pay. It had started as an ordinary trip to the park, a peaceful moment of respite amidst the chaos of new motherhood. Megan had carefully bundled her infant, Ryan, into his stroller and set out to get some fresh air. The spring breeze carried the scent of blossoming flowers, and Megan allowed herself to relax, drinking in the tranquility. But that serenity had been shattered in an instant, ripped apart by the sudden appearance of a deranged stranger. Megan replayed the encounter in her mind, desperately searching for some clue, some reason that could have provoked such a violent outburst. Had she accidentally bumped the woman's child? Cut in line at the swings? Megan racked her brain, but she simply couldn't fathom what she could have done to warrant such a vicious attack. With a shudder, she recalled the woman's crazed expression, the wild, unfocused rage in her eyes as she leveled the canister of pepper spray. Megan had been completely caught off guard, unprepared for the searing pain that erupted across her face. As she fell to the ground, clutching her stricken infant, she had heard the woman's parting words, dripping with twisted triumph. "That'll teach you to keep your hands off my kid." The memory made Megan's blood boil. How dare that woman accost them, endanger her child? And for what? Some imagined slight, a figment of her own disturbed mind. Megan had to find her, to demand answers, to ensure she never hurt another innocent person again. With grim determination, Megan rose from her bed. She would start by retracing her steps, combing the park for any witnesses, any clues that could lead her to the twisted woman. The police had assured her they were investigating, but Megan knew she couldn't rely on them alone. This was personal now, a fight for justice, a battle to protect her family. As she tiptoed to the nursery, Megan gazed down at her sleeping son, his delicate features unmarred by the trauma they had endured. She reached out, lightly tracing the contours of his tiny face, and felt her resolve harden. No matter what it took, she would find the woman who had dared to attack them, and she would make her pay. Megan pulled her jacket tighter, bracing against the chill as she walked back through the park. The bright spring blooms seemed to mock her, a stark contrast to the darkness swirling in her mind. How could something so beautiful have witnessed such ugliness? She scanned the area, searching for any sign of the deranged woman, but the tranquil scene offered no clues. Megan's fingers tightened around the handle of Ryan's stroller, a mix of protectiveness and determination coursing through her. As she approached the spot where the attack had occurred, Megan felt a familiar wave of nausea. She paused, taking a deep breath to steady herself, then pressed on. Her eyes narrowed, scrutinizing every face, every movement, for any hint of recognition. "Excuse me," Megan called out to a jogger passing by. "Did you happen to see what happened here yesterday afternoon?" The woman slowed her pace, brow furrowing in concern. "No, I'm afraid I didn't. What happened?" Megan's jaw tightened. "Some lunatic sprayed me and my baby with pepper spray. I'm trying to find any witnesses who might have seen her." The jogger's eyes widened in horror. "Oh my God, that's terrible. Are you both all right?" "We're okay, thanks to the quick thinking of some firefighters who were nearby." Megan's expression darkened. "But I need to find that woman, make sure she doesn't hurt anyone else." The jogger shook her head sympathetically. "I'm so sorry, I wish I could help. But I didn't see anything. Maybe try talking to the vendors or other regulars around here. They might have noticed something." Megan nodded, biting back her frustration. Thanks anyway. I'd appreciate it. As the jogger resumed her run, Megan turned her attention to the small cluster of food carts and vendors scattered throughout the park. Taking a steadying breath, she approached the nearest one, a friendly-looking man selling hot dogs. "Excuse me, sir? I was wondering if you happened to see what happened here yesterday afternoon?" Megan's voice wavered slightly, the emotions of the previous day still raw. The vendor paused, studying her intently. "Something happened here, did it?" His brow furrowed with concern. "What can I do for you, miss?" Megan recounted the attack, her words becoming more impassioned with each detail. "I need to find the woman who did this. She's out there, and I can't let her hurt anyone else." Her eyes pleaded with the vendor. "Please, if you saw anything at all." The vendor's expression darkened as he listened, his thick fingers tightening around the hot dog tongs. "That's a real shame. What happened to you and your little one?" "Ain't right. No siree." He shook his head grimly. "Can't say as I saw the whole thing go down, but I did notice a real agitated woman storming off right after all the commotion. Seemed real worked up about something." Megan's heart raced. "Did you see where she went?" The vendor pursed his lips, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Let me think. Yep, I remember now. She headed straight for the parking lot, over that way." He pointed towards a cluster of trees at the far end of the park. Megan's grip on the stroller tightened. Thank you so much." Without another word, she turned and broke into a sprint, her soul focused on reaching that parking lot and finally confronting the twisted woman who had terrorized her family. Megan's heart pounded as she raced across the park, pushing Ryan's stroller with renewed urgency. The vendor's information had ignited a glimmer of hope, a chance to finally confront the twisted woman who had upended their lives. As she approached the parking lot, Megan scanned the rows of vehicles, eyes narrowed with determination. She had to find that woman, to demand answers, to ensure she never hurt another innocent person again. The mere thought of that deranged attack sent a shiver of rage down her spine. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her eye. Megan's head snapped to the left, and there she was, the woman from the park, fumbling with her car keys as she hurried towards a beat-up sit-in. Without hesitation, Megan picked up her pace, closing the distance between them. "Hey!" Megan shouted, her voice laced with fury. "You!" The woman spun around, eyes widening in recognition. For a moment, the two women stared at each other, a charged silence hanging in the air. "What the hell do you want?" The woman spat, her grip tightening on her car keys. Megan's jaw clenched. "You know damn well what I want. How dare you attack me and my baby?" She took a step forward, Ryan's stroller rocking dangerously. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" The woman's expression shifted from alarm to defiance. "You stay away from me, you crazy bitch." She whirled around, yanking open her car door. "No, you don't get to run away." Megan surged forward, grabbing the woman's arm. "You're going to answer for what you did." With a sharp yank, the woman wrenched free, stumbling backwards. "Get off me!" she screamed, her voice tinged with panic. Megan's eyes narrowed. "Not until you tell me why you did it. What could I have possibly done to make you attack us like that?" The woman's face contorted with rage. "You were getting too close to my kid," she shrieked. "I had to protect him." Megan stared at her, dumbfounded. "What are you talking about? I wasn't anywhere near your child." "Liar," the woman spat. "I saw you, hovering over his stroller, trying to take him." Her eyes wild, she fumbled in her purse, yanking out the canister of pepper spray. "Well, I showed you, didn't I? No one touches my baby." Megan's blood ran cold as the woman raised the canister, finger poised on the trigger. "Wait, no," she cried, desperately trying to shield Ryan's stroller. But before she could react, a blur of motion erupted from behind her. "Ma'am, put the weapon down," a deep voice boomed. Megan spun around to see two burly firefighters rushing towards them, faces etched with fury. In one swift motion, they tackled the woman to the ground, wresting the canister from her grip. "No," the woman shrieked, thrashing against their hold. "Get off me, you bastards." Megan stood rooted to the spot, heart pounding, as the firefighters pinned the woman down, their expressions grim. As they waited for the police to arrive, Megan felt a surge of relief wash over her, mixed with a growing sense of dread. This was far from over. Megan watched in stunned silence as the firefighters pinned the shrieking woman to the ground, her wild eyes fixed on Ryan's stroller. The air crackled with tension, and Megan found herself torn between relief and a mounting sense of dread. "Let me go, you bastards," the woman screamed, her voice raw with fury. "That bitch had her hands all over my son." One of the firefighters, a burly man with a graying beard, glared down at her. "Ma'am, you need to calm down and explain yourself. But attacking a mother and child is never acceptable, do you understand?" The woman thrashed against their hold, spittle flying from her lips. "Acceptable? She was trying to take my baby. I had to protect him." Megan felt her stomach turn at the woman's demented logic. "I wasn't anywhere near your child," she insisted, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and outrage. "You just attacked us out of nowhere." The woman's eyes narrowed to slits. "Liar, I saw you, hovering over his stroller. You were going to take him. I know it." Megan shook her head, bewildered. "That's insane. I was just taking my son for a walk in the park. I've never even seen you before." The woman let out a harsh, grating laugh. "Oh, don't try to play innocent with me. I know your type, always poking your nose where it doesn't belong, trying to steal other people's children." Her expression darkened. "Well, not my son. I'll die before I let anyone take him from me." Megan's mind raced, struggling to make sense of the woman's delusional ravings. "Lady, you're completely out of your mind," she spat. "My son is mine, and I would never do anything to hurt him, or anyone else's child. You're the one who attacked us." The woman's face contorted with rage. "Liar," she shrieked, straining against the firefighter's hold. "You're all liars." Megan felt a shiver of fear as the woman's hysterical screams echoed through the parking lot. She glanced down at Ryan's stroller, his tiny form still asleep, oblivious to the chaos unfolding around them. Megan's grip tightened protectively, and she knew she had to get them both away from this deranged woman as soon as possible. "Look, I don't know what's wrong with you," Megan said, her voice low and steady, "but you need to get some help, and stay the hell away from me and my son." She turned to the firefighters, who were struggling to maintain their hold on the thrashing woman. "Can you please make sure she doesn't come anywhere near us?" The graying firefighter nodded grimly. "Don't worry, ma'am. We'll make sure she doesn't cause any more trouble." As the sound of sirens approached, Megan felt a glimmer of relief. Justice was finally on its way. But as she guided Ryan's stroller away from the commotion, she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that this was far from over. As the wail of sirens grew closer, Megan hurried away from the scene, her heart pounding. She couldn't bear the thought of that deranged woman anywhere near her or her son. Glancing down at Ryan's sleeping form, she felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination to shield him from any further harm. Reaching the edge of the parking lot, Megan paused, taking a deep, steadying breath. She needed to collect her thoughts to make sense of the horrifying encounter that had shattered their peaceful afternoon. But the memory of the woman's crazed eyes and twisted accusations left her feeling unsettled, her nerves raw. As the police cars screeched to a halt, Megan watched as the officers swarmed the firefighters and the still struggling woman. She knew she would have to recount the incident, to relive the terror of that moment, but the thought filled her with dread. What if they didn't believe her? What if that unhinged woman somehow managed to turn the tables, to paint Megan as the aggressor? Megan shook her head, willing away the spiraling doubts. No, she couldn't give in to that fear. She had to be strong for Ryan's sake. Squaring her shoulders, she approached the officers, her expression grim. "Excuse me, officers," she called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm the one who called out the incident in the park." The nearest officer, a tall, imposing man with a stern gaze, turned to face her. "Ma'am, can you tell us exactly what happened?" Megan took a deep breath and recounted the attack in vivid detail, her words becoming more impassioned with each sentence. She watched as the officer's expression darkened, his brow furrowing with concern. "So this woman just sprayed you with pepper spray?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "For no apparent reason?" Megan nodded, her hands clenching into fists. "Yes, that's exactly what happened. She just came out of nowhere, screaming at me, and then—" She paused, swallowing hard. "She sprayed it right in my face. I couldn't see, I could barely breathe. And my baby." Her voice trembled, the memory of Ryan's terrified cries still haunting her. The officer's gaze softened with sympathy. "I see. And did she give any explanation for her actions?" Megan's jaw tightened. "Yes, she claimed I was trying to take her child. But that's completely insane. I've never even seen her or her child before in my life." The officer nodded slowly, his expression contemplative. Well, this certainly seems to be a complex situation. We'll need to question the suspect and get the full story." Megan felt a flicker of frustration. The full story. "Officer, she attacked me and my baby with pepper spray. How much more full does the story need to be?" The officer raised a hand, his tone placating. "I understand your concern, ma'am. But we have to investigate this thoroughly, from all angles. We can't just take one side of the story at face value." Megan opened her mouth to protest, but the officer continued. "Don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of this. In the meantime, I'd recommend getting you and your son checked out by the EMTs, just to be safe." Megan glanced over at the ambulance, its red lights casting an eerie glow over the scene. With a resigned sigh, she nodded, tightening her grip on Ryan's stroller. "All right, fine. But I want that woman arrested, you hear me? She can't be allowed to get away with this." The officer's expression hardened. "Don't worry, ma'am. We'll make sure she faces the consequences of her actions." As Megan made her way towards the EMTs, a sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. Something told her that this was only the beginning of a long and arduous battle for justice. As the ambulance attendants examined Megan and Ryan, she couldn't help but feel a gnawing sense of impatience. She understood the need for a thorough investigation, but every minute spent waiting was another moment the twisted woman who had attacked them remained free. "How are you feeling, ma'am?" one of the attendants asked, his voice gentle but probing. "Any lingering effects from the pepper spray?" Megan winced as he gently dabbed at the raw skin around her eyes. "It still stings, and my throat feels like it's on fire. But I'll be okay." She glanced down at Ryan, who was now wide awake and whimpering softly. "I'm more worried about my son. Will he be all right?" The attendant's expression turned sympathetic. The exposure was minimal, so he should recover quickly. But we'll want to monitor him closely, just to be safe. Megan nodded, relief washing over her. At least her baby was going to be okay. But as her gaze drifted to the police officers surrounding the woman, her jaw tightened with renewed determination. "Any idea how long this is going to take?" she asked, unable to mask the impatience in her voice. "I really need to give my statement so you can arrest that lunatic." The attendant shot her an apologetic look. "I'm afraid I don't have any specifics on the timeline, ma'am. The officers will need to complete their initial investigation before you can provide your full statement." Megan let out a frustrated sigh. "Well, can you at least tell me what's happening over there?" She gestured towards the cluster of police and firefighters, where the deranged woman was still being restrained. "I'm sorry, but I can't really discuss the details of an ongoing investigation," the attendant replied, his tone cautious. What I can tell you is that the police are taking this very seriously. They'll make sure justice is served. Megan's jaw tightened. That's not good enough. That woman needs to be locked up, now, before she hurts someone else. She shook her head, her eyes narrowing. I can't just sit here and wait while she gets to walk free. The attendant placed a reassuring hand on her arm. I understand your frustration, ma'am. But the best thing you can do right now is cooperate fully with the police. Let them handle the legal process and focus on taking care of yourself and your son. Megan opened her mouth to protest, but the sound of approaching footsteps interrupted her. She looked up to see the stern-faced officer approaching, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, I need to speak with you, the officer said, his tone grave. It seems there are some complications with this case. Megan felt her heart drop. Complications? What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling with dread. The officer took a deep breath. Well, the suspect is claiming self-defense. She's alleging that you were the one who threatened her child, and that she had no choice but to use the pepper spray to protect him. Megan stared at the officer, her mind reeling. That's completely absurd. I never even went near her child. The officer raised a hand, his expression sympathetic. I understand your frustration, ma'am. But the suspect is sticking to her story, and we have to investigate it thoroughly. Megan felt a wave of despair wash over her. After everything she and Ryan had endured, the thought of that deranged woman evading justice was almost too much to bear. So what happens now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The officer's gaze hardened. We'll be taking the suspect into custody for further questioning. In the meantime, I'd recommend you seek legal counsel. This case is far from over. Megan felt her stomach drop as the officer's words sank in. Self-defense. She sputtered, her voice laced with disbelief. How on earth can that lunatic claim self-defense after what she did to me and my baby? The officer's expression was grave. I understand your frustration, ma'am, but the suspect is sticking to her story. She's alleging that you were a threat to her child, and that she had no choice but to use the pepper spray to protect him. Megan shook her head, her mind racing. That's completely absurd. I never even went near her child. I was just taking my son for a walk in the park. The officer raised a hand, his tone soothing. I know this is upsetting, but we have to investigate all angles thoroughly. The suspect's claims have to be taken seriously, even if they seem far-fetched. Megan felt a surge of anger, her fingers tightening around the stroller handle. So what, you're just going to let her get away with this? After what she did to us? The officer's gaze hardened. No one is getting away with anything, ma'am. The suspect is being taken into custody for further questioning. But we have to build a solid case, and that takes time. Megan's jaw clenched. Time? My son and I were the victims here. How much time do you need before you put that crazy woman behind bars where she belongs? The officer's expression remained impassive. I understand your concern, but the legal process can't be rushed. We have to gather all the evidence, interview witnesses, and ensure a fair, thorough investigation. Megan felt her frustration boiling over. Fair? How is any of this fair? That woman attacked us, and now you're letting her play the victim. The officer sighed deeply. I know this is difficult, but I can assure you that we are taking this matter very seriously. We will do everything in our power to ensure justice is served. Megan stared at him, her eyes narrow with suspicion. Well, you'd better. Because if you don't, I'll make sure you all answer for it. The officer's brow furrowed. Ma'am, I understand your anger, but threatening the police will only harm your case. I strongly advise you to let us handle this investigation according to proper protocol. Megan's lips pressed into a thin line. Fine, but you'd better not let that woman slip through the cracks. She glanced down at Ryan, who was now awake and staring up at her with wide, concerned eyes. My son and I have been through enough. The officer nodded solemnly. I give you my word, ma'am, we will pursue this case with the utmost diligence. But in the meantime, I'd suggest you focus on your own well-being and that of your child. As the officer turned and rejoined his colleagues, Megan felt a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. She knew the fight for justice had only just begun. As Megan watched the police car carrying the deranged woman pull away, a mixture of relief and trepidation washed over her. While part of her was glad to see the twisted attacker taken into custody, the officer's words still echoed in her mind, sowing seeds of doubt and frustration. Self-defense. Megan muttered under her breath, her grip tightening on Ryan's stroller. How in the world can that lunatic claim she was defending herself? The more she thought about it, the more her blood boiled. That woman had viciously attacked her and her innocent baby, all because of some delusional belief that Megan had threatened her child. The very idea was absurd, an outrageous fabrication that threatened to undermine the entire case. Megan glanced down at Ryan, his big eyes gazing up at her with a mixture of confusion and concern. She felt a pang of guilt, knowing that her son had been dragged into this nightmarish ordeal through no fault of his own. The memory of his terrified cries still haunted her, a painful reminder of the trauma they had endured. "Don't worry, sweetheart," Megan whispered, forcing a reassuring smile. "Mommy's going to make sure that bad lady never hurts us again." With renewed determination, Megan turned her attention to the officers, who were now huddled in a tight group, their expressions serious. "Excuse me," she called out, striding towards them. "I need to know what's going to happen next. How are you going to make sure that woman is held accountable?" The officer who had spoken to her earlier broke away from the group, his face etched with sympathy. "Ma'am, I can assure you that we are taking this matter very seriously," he said, his tone measured. "The suspect has been charged with assault and child endangerment, and we are gathering additional evidence to build a strong case." Megan felt a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly extinguished by the officer's next words. "However, the suspect's claims of self-defense are complicating matters. We need to thoroughly investigate her version of events to ensure a fair and impartial outcome." Megan's jaw clenched in frustration. Fair and impartial. After what she did to us? She shook her head vehemently. "No, that's not good enough. I want her to pay for what she's done." The officer raised a hand, his expression grave. "I understand your anger, ma'am, but the legal system has to follow due process. We can't just take one side of the story at face value." Megan stared at him, her eyes blazing with a mixture of fury and desperation. "So you're telling me that monster might actually get away with this?" The officer's gaze hardened. "I'm telling you that we will do everything in our power to ensure justice is served. But that takes time, and it requires your cooperation and patience." Megan felt the weight of his words, the reality of the situation sinking in. As much as she longed for a swift and decisive outcome, she knew the legal system didn't work that way. With a resigned sigh, she nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "All right, fine. I'll play by your rules." She glanced down at Ryan, her expression softening. "But I swear, if that woman gets away with this, there will be hell to pay." The officer nodded solemnly. "I understand, ma'am, and I give you my word that we will pursue this case with the utmost diligence." As Megan watched the officers disappear into their patrol cars, she couldn't shake the feeling that the battle for justice had only just begun. But with her son's safety as her guiding light, she knew she would stop at nothing to see that twisted woman punished for her heinous actions. The road ahead might be long and arduous, but Megan was more determined than ever to ensure that justice prevailed, and she would fight with every fiber of her being to protect her family and reclaim the peace that had been so cruelly ripped away.